You've probably heard the phrase, playing hard to get. And maybe you rolled your eyes because it sounds like one of those outdated dating tricks people post on TikTok at 2 a.m. But here's the weird part, psychologists have actually studied this, and the results are kind of unsettling, because the less available someone seems, the more attractive they can become. Not always. Not for everyone, but under the right conditions, your brain literally values people more when they feel harder to access. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why humans chase what they can't fully have, why playing hard to get sometimes backfires horribly, and the one psychological mistake almost everybody makes in modern dating. Why humans want what they can't have. Let's start with a simple question. Why does food taste better when you're starving? Why does a sold-out product suddenly become irresistible? Why does someone become more interesting the second they stop texting back instantly? That's not random. It's called the scarcity principle. One of the most powerful concepts in human behavior psychology. Your brain is wired to assume that scarce things are valuable. If something is difficult to obtain, your mind unconsciously thinks, maybe this matters more, and this applies to attraction too. In dating psychology, emotional availability affects perceived value. That doesn't mean being cold or toxic is attractive. But a person who seems independent, fulfilled, and not desperate for validation often appears more emotionally valuable. And this is where things get interesting, because attraction isn't just about beauty, it's about uncertainty. The science of attraction loves uncertainty. Researchers studying attraction science found something fascinating. People often think more about individuals when they're unsure how those individuals feel about them. Not total rejection, not complete certainty, uncertainty. In one study, participants became more attracted to people whose feelings were unclear compared to people who openly showed maximum interest. Why? Because uncertainty creates mental obsession. Your brain keeps trying to solve the puzzle. It's like a Netflix cliffhanger. When something feels unfinished, your brain refuses to let it go. This is called the Zeigarnik effect, our tendency to remember incomplete experiences more strongly than completed ones. And suddenly, playing hard to get starts making psychological sense. But here's the problem. Most people misunderstand what this actually means. Playing hard to get does not mean ignoring people. This is where most people make a mistake. They hear be less available and translate it into take 9 hours to reply, act emotionally dead, pretend not to care. That's not attractive, that's exhausting. Real attraction psychology is more nuanced than that. The goal isn't to manufacture distance. The goal is to communicate that your life already has value outside the relationship. There's a huge difference. Someone constantly seeking validation feels emotionally dependent. But someone with passions, boundaries, goals, and self-respect naturally creates intrigue. Think about it like this. Imagine two restaurants. One is completely empty all the time. The other always has a line outside. Without even tasting the food, your brain already assumes one has higher value. Humans use social cues to estimate worth, and confidence plus independence are powerful cues. Why confidence feels so attractive now? This next part might surprise you. Confidence itself is often mistaken for playing hard to get, but they're not the same thing. Confident people don't chase because they don't need constant reassurance, and that emotional stability is incredibly attractive. In relationship psychology, emotional self-sufficiency signals security. It tells people, this person wants connection, but they don't need it to survive. That creates emotional safety. Ironically, desperation does the opposite. When someone overpursues too quickly, the brain sometimes interprets it as low social value. Not because they're a bad person, but because urgency can unconsciously signal insecurity. This is why emotional attraction often grows slower than physical attraction. People are trying to assess emotional stability. And this is exactly why mystery can amplify attraction. Mystery keeps the brain engaged. Think about your favorite movie. If somebody spoiled every scene before you watched it, the experience would feel weaker. Mystery creates anticipation, and anticipation releases dopamine, the same chemical tied to motivation and reward. This is why attraction psychology explained through neuroscience gets so fascinating. Your brain often enjoys the pursuit almost as much as the reward itself. That's why people sometimes become obsessed with emotionally unavailable partners. The chase itself becomes stimulating. But here's the dangerous part. There's a fine line between intrigue and emotional manipulation. And crossing that line creates toxic relationships fast. When playing hard to get becomes toxic, there's healthy scarcity. And then there's emotional games. Healthy scarcity says, I have my own life goals and boundaries. Toxic scarcity says, I'm going to manipulate your emotions to gain power. Big difference. Some people intentionally create anxiety to keep others attached. Hot and cold behavior, breadcrumbing, constant mixed signals. That's not attraction science, that's emotional instability. And despite what social media sometimes says, long-term healthy relationships are not built on confusion. In fact, studies in relationship psychology consistently show that emotional consistency builds stronger trust and attachment over time. So yes, uncertainty can trigger attraction initially. But security is what sustains connection, and this is where the real nuance appears, because the most attractive people aren't impossible to reach. They're simply not emotionally desperate. Why social media changed attraction psychology. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Modern dating apps, Instagram, TikTok, constant attention. Today, people have unlimited access to validation, and weirdly enough, that reduced its value. When attention becomes cheap, emotional presence becomes rare. That's why someone who isn't constantly performing for approval often stands out more. In a world screaming for attention, restraint feels powerful. This is one reason why playing hard to get seems more effective today than ever before. But again, not because people enjoy rejection. Because authenticity and emotional independence have become scarce, and humans are naturally drawn towards scarcity. But there's another psychological layer nobody talks about enough. The brain confuses effort with value. This part explains so much about human behavior psychology. Your brain tends to value things more when you invest effort into getting them. Psychologists call this effort justification. It's why people cherish expensive degrees, difficult achievements, or relationships they worked hard for. The struggle increases perceived value. And sometimes attraction works the same way. If someone earns your attention gradually, your brain may attach greater emotional significance to the connection. But here's where things get dangerous. Some people become addicted to earning love. They mistake emotional difficulty for emotional depth. And this is where many toxic relationships begin. Because not every difficult person is valuable. Sometimes they're just unavailable. Huge difference. What actually makes someone attractive long-term? So after all this, does playing hard to get actually work? Yes, but not in the way most people think. The psychology of attraction isn't about pretending not to care. It's about having enough self-worth that your entire happiness doesn't depend on being chosen. That energy changes everything. The most attractive people usually share a few traits. They have boundaries. They have purpose outside relationships. They don't overchase validation. They create emotional space naturally instead of artificially. And ironically, that makes people lean in more. Because healthy confidence feels rare, and rare things attract attention. But here's the final twist. The people who are most obsessed with chasing others are often the ones avoiding themselves. That constant pursuit, sometimes it's just distraction. And once you understand that, attraction starts looking very different. So the real reason playing hard to get works isn't because humans love rejection. It works because confidence, independence, and emotional balance signal value in ways our brains instinctively recognize. But the strongest relationships aren't built on games. They're built on attraction first, then trust second. And remember that story loop from the beginning. The people who seem hardest to get usually aren't strategically playing games at all. They're simply living lives that don't revolve around chasing approval. If this changed the way you think about attraction psychology, then you'll definitely want to watch the next video, where I break down why people become emotionally attached to toxic relationships without realizing it. And if you enjoyed this one, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.